guys, welcome to another episode of Talk Life with me. So today is a continuance of self-image and more or less my journey of self-image and things that I've had to cope with, um, and things like that. So the biggest, I think, obstacle for me in regards to self-image kind of hit around age 14, 15 years of age. And I mean, for a Latina girl, 15 years, quinceañera and everything, it's it's kind of like a big deal. It's a milestone, that we go through, and we're excited because it's like our journey to womanhood and we get to start wearing makeup and all that stuff. But for me, it was a little bit different because prior to me turning 15 years old, I was diagnosed with vitiligo, which, if you don't know what that is, if you see my face, it has different colors, and my hand, uh, my hands. So what happens is the cells in my body that create color, the pigment cells, are like attacking itself, and they just stop producing color. Um, when I first was diagnosed with it, it wasn't as bad as it looks like now. So I don't want to say I didn't really care about it, but I was kind of like, oh, give me the medicine that I need to, and everything's going to be good. But it wasn't really like that. It would come and go, and it was really hard for me in my teenage years because, like in that age, I think is when we really want to fit in, we really want to make friends, and we really want to do all this stuff. But growing up, not a lot of people in my school had what I had, or even at the church that I attended at that time. Um, and it was really hard because I was also learning how to use makeup, so I didn't really like know about concealer, and even now I don't use that much makeup. It's just kind of like covering the spots. Um, but one of the hardest things for me is as I was growing up, and I do my own research and stuff like that, it would it would say that vitiligo is what you call incurable, meaning there is no cure. There are different things to help, like prevent it from growing and things like that, and spreading. But I've tried it all except for phototherapy, which it's like UV lights on your skin, but it can get pretty pricey, so we didn't go that route. But I had injections, I had different ointments, different skincare treatments. I even ordered medicine from the UK because they had like a different thing going on. But long story short, I still have it, and like I mentioned before, I feel like it's spreading, and I feel like when that happens, like I get anxiety because I look at myself and I'm just like, I like my color skin, like why is it changing? Why is this happening? Why is the cells of my body attacking itself? And it's something I don't want to say I struggled to it because like I can do this now. Like I said before in my last podcast, is if someone were to tell me 2 or 3 years ago, hey, you need to go on there and we don't want you to wear makeup and you need to show them, how you really look and all this stuff, I'd be like, no, like I'm not doing that. I'd just be scared. Like I don't think I could do it because I'd just be so fearful of how other people would judge me and how I would feel. But I can confidently sit here. I mean, do I like how I look? No, but it doesn't define who I am, and I'm okay with it. I think the biggest thing I have learned from my experience with vitiligo is that God is God no matter what. Whether He heals me 100% or whether the healing doesn't come at the time that I want it to, I'm still going to praise Him. Whether or not, my skin does recover. And for those of you that don't know, vitiligo is not contagious. So if you see someone with it and they want a hug or you shake their hand, you're not going to get it. It doesn't, that's not how it happens. So don't be scared to say hi to me. And if I can remember, when I was around 15 years at school, we were reading a book called Frankenstein. Like every year we had to read a book. And that year we had to read the book Frankenstein. In a weird way, I felt like I could relate to this like ugly creature because that's what I thought I was. I would look at myself in the mirror and I'd be like, what is happening to me? And I would just cake makeup. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I would just put layers and layers of stuff and I'd be like, okay, no one can see it. It's fine. And then it started growing on my fingers and I was like, I'm not about to wear gloves. I'm not like, I'm not going to do that. So from a very early age, I would say that my parents were really good at helping me have a good self-esteem. So self-image and self-esteem, I feel like go hand in hand, but I was able to have a higher self-esteem than self-image, which I feel like helped me a lot because now that I'm older, I'm able to go out and sometimes I even forget that I have it. Like I will go out of the house and I forget that I'm like, oh wait, I didn't cover up. I didn't, I didn't put on makeup. And that's how I know that like I'm okay with it. Not that I'm okay with having it. Like if my prayer has always been God heal me, like that's what I want. Like when I first read that vitiligo did not have a cure, um, I felt devastated. Like it was kind of a hard pill to swallow. But my prayer is that I'm gonna be among the statistics of people whose pigmentation was 100% restored. Why? Because I know that my God can do it. I know that my God is faithful. And when he died on the cross, he didn't just die for my sins, but also sicknesses. And that healing's going to come for me. And whether it comes today, tomorrow, or in 3, 4, whenever, I'm going to stay faithful to that. I'm going to have my faith in knowing that God's going to do something and God's going to do something good. Like in the word, I want to read Romans 8:28, where it says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. I have purpose. God gave me purpose. I trust in him, knowing that he's going to do something good with what I'm going through. Do I understand why I'm going through it? No. But I no longer have that fear of what will other people say. I think that's one of the biggest things with self-image is being judged. It's an insecurity that I had past tense because like I mentioned before, I praise God that I'm no longer worried about, you know, this. Like I'm telling you, I see it, and like I said, I don't like it, but I'm not like crying over it and telling God why, like I would spend a lot of hours, a lot of time just like being upset over it, and I no longer do that because I have faith. I have faith that God is going to do something. And if I can also add, growing up, a lot of the times what I would say is I would call them spots, like, oh, my spots. But I would refer to them as my spots. And one time my mom corrected me and she's like, what did you say? And I was like, oh, my spots, mis manchas. And she actually told me, she's like, stop claiming them as yours. I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, they're on my skin, so they're mine. But it got me to thinking how many times we take ownership of something that is not ours. It's not meant to be ours. For example, if someone has high blood pressure or, something even more severe like cancer or tumors, how many times do we refer to these things of, oh, my cancer, my tumor, my high blood pressure, my anxiety? Like we take ownership of things where God is like, hey, I can heal that. It's not even supposed to be yours. And so I think my mom is she's a prayer warrior till this day. I know that she prays with my tia, and a lot of different people are have me in their prayers for healing, and I 100% appreciate it, and I continue to join in that faith that God will heal me. But with my mom, she taught me that there's things that we can't take ownership of. Like we can't call them as ours. And alongside my mom and my dad, just the family that I grew up around. Thankfully, my brother and my sisters were never ones that would look at me and in disgust or anything. They never pointed it out or, I think kids can be cruel, and growing up they weren't like, oh, ew, what's that? My siblings were never like that. So thank you guys, Tony, Kelly, Emily, for never putting me down in that form, because I think if a family member were to ever say something like that to me, like, that would hurt, because it's like they're supposed to love you for who you are, because they're your family, but at times it may or may not happen. So I'm just thankful that my family was very supportive in that sense. And as I grew up and as I got older and as I met my husband, Chris is also someone that, like, this man, we've been married for 12 years now, so he's known me from when this wasn't as bad. And in our entire marriage, he has never once put me down for the way that I look. And I'm not just talking about the vitiligo. I'm talking about my weight. I'm talking about after I had babies and I got stretch marks and just different things. Like, I just thank God for the husband that he gave me, because Chris still looks at me the same way he did when we first met. And that's a quality that I just love about him, because as a woman, it makes you feel valued and good knowing that I don't have to cake my face with makeup for my husband to come up to me and say, hey, you're beautiful. And not only does that make me feel good, we have 2 boys and they're watching that. And try not to get emotional. My boys, my 4-year-old and my 8-year-old, have come up to me when I'm not wearing makeup, when I'm not, dressed all pretty. And when I really need to hear it, they come up to me and they just say, Mama, you're beautiful. Or they'll just be like, Mama, I love you. You're so pretty. And I'm like, who they learned that from? They learned that from Chris. They learned that from their dad. And I just love that my husband loves me for me, and that's why, side note, for those that are looking for a spouse, make sure that your future spouse can genuinely and regularly compliment you. And I don't mean just about looks, I mean in general of who you are as a person. And this goes both ways, in a wife, in a husband, because husbands too love compliments. I know a lot of the times it's very easy to just sideline the men and the husbands in relationships and say, no, they don't need compliments, the girl does. Guys need it too. But as a woman, I think what it does is it boosts our self-esteem. It shows that there's care, and it can even strengthen, the connection. So make sure that your future spouse can notice those details. Again, it doesn't have to be physical or about the way that you look or the way that you dress, or haircuts, things like that. It's for you. If your future spouse is criticizing you more than complimenting you, there's an issue, and that needs to be addressed prior to marriage. So that's just my little side note in regards to that, because I didn't know my vitiligo was going to grow. And additionally, something along with vitiligo is I get a lot of gray hair. I've got it since I was 12 years old. So a lot of the times I have gray hair, and a lot of people think that I use highlights, but I don't. It's all natural. But like things like that, like Chris never comes at me for, oh, look at your hair, look at your skin. Like, never. He has never done that. So again, I praise God for the husband that he gave me. And additionally, what I'd like to say in regards to my journey with self-image is that I never really knew how bad I wanted the healing until someone came up to me. I was at a thrift store. Side note, love thrifting. That's like my thing. That's where you will find me if I'm not at home. A woman came up to me, and with no reservation, she looked at me and she said, hey, like, she stopped me. She's like, you're gonna be beautiful. And I was like, gonna be. I am. No, just kidding. But I was like, I was really like caught off guard. I'm like, go, like, I was really like going to be. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, it just caught me off guard. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. And then she's like, I had what you had. And I'm like, what? Like, like I said, sometimes I forget that I have the vitiligo until someone else brings it up. So, she explained to me that she used to have brown skin because when I saw her, she was light skinned. She looked Caucasian to me. Like, that was the color of her skin. But she told me, she's like, no, no, no. I used to be your color skin. I used to be this chocolatey brown, almost caramel. And I'm like, okay. And then she showed me pictures, and head to toe, she no longer has, I guess, what you would call the original color skin that she had. And if I'm being honest, I was a little fearful in that I was like, wait, I don't want that to happen to me. Like, I got like, that's when I started doing even more research. Like, hey, what else is there out there? What else can I do? Because I will confess that when I was diagnosed with vitiligo, like I said before, I was just, okay, give me the pills. Like, what I got to do? Like, let's get rid of it. Like, I never really put like the time into, no, I need to, like, make this a routine. I need to follow procedures because it's like a lifetime medicine that you have to use. It's not just like, oh, 3 months and then you're done, you're healed. Like, it's a process. And with me, is if I wasn't seeing results right away, I would ditch the process. I'd be like, no, I'm done. It's not gonna work. I'm just gonna leave it as it is. It's fine. It's not gonna grow. But then it started growing and it started growing, and I was just like, it's okay, it's okay. But I would just I would rely on other people's prayers. Oh, my mom's praying. Oh, the pastor's praying. Oh, people at prayer are praying. I'll be healed whenever God wants to heal me. But when that woman came up to me, I felt like God was trying to tell me, what are you doing? What are you personally doing? And it made me really think, because I think a lot of the times we just assume that, oh, God's got it. He's going to do what he's going to do. I don't have to do anything anymore. But is that really faith? Or is that just saying, hey, I don't want to deal with this, so you deal with it. And whatever happens, happens, and I'm just going to ride. I'm just going to go with the motions. I'm just like, no, faith is continual. Faith is pushing until something happens. Faith is, I'm going to pray every day. I'm going to do my medicine. I'm going to keep researching. I'm going to find out what it is without it taking control over my life. Like we mentioned before, if this is all I'm worried about, if I cannot go outside, if I cannot do anything without worrying about how I look, that's where the issue comes. But you also have to put your part. Kind of like when you want to lose weight. You can't just be like, God, I want to lose weight, please. Okay. Like, there are things that you can do to lose weight. Diet, exercise, going to the gym, a lot of different things. But we also have to put in our effort. And when it comes to self-image, there's a fine line between it taking over your life, taking priority over your life, and you not doing a single thing because you're just gonna, whatever happens, happens type attitude. So it wasn't until I had that encounter with that woman where I was just like, Merili, ponete las pilas. Like, you need to do something. You can't just rely on other people. What are you doing? Are you fasting? Are you praying? Are you, so many things that God really, God really opened my eyes in that sense. And even to this day, I think the hardest part for me to this day is when kids come up to me and ask me about my skin. And if you've ever been around kids can be pretty harsh. they they give you the harsh truth, and they can be ruthless. Like, they say it without hesitation. They say it without filters. They just say how they feel. And recently, A 9-year old girl came up to me and she asked me with disgust, I might add, she's like, "What is wrong with your skin?" And I'm the type of person that I'm not about to break out the medical book for a 9-year old and explain to her, the pigment and this and the cell. I'm very like, I was fun about it, and I told her, I was like, "Oh, I'm a chameleon. I change colors. You didn't know that?" Like, just trying to be funny. And then I just, I told her, I was like, "Oh, my cells are just not producing as much. And it just, skin color, and it just happens." And without hesitation, she's like, "Well, that's weird." I'm like, whew, I had to. But it's crazy because I felt like if I could, if if a 9-year old could do that to me, like if a 9-year old could rattle me a little bit, I guess you could say. It's like I have to be able to know, you know, that it's gonna happen. Not a lot of people know about vitiligo. I know there was some models recently that I don't know, like people tell me, "Oh, did you know this model had it?" I'm like, "Sure." Like I don't compare myself to them, but as more and more people learn about it, I feel like they stare and they don't want to ask questions. But with kids, like kids will come up to you and tell you what they want to say. So I think it's all about delivery and what you say in response. Also about what they learn at home. Like my kids, because they know that I have this, if we see someone in public, they're never going to go up to that person, and make them feel bad about it or anything, because we've taught them at home. And when we talked about the Discipline podcast, if you haven't seen it, go back a couple weeks. But we are raising kids, and kids are an image of what they see. And a lot of the times we feel like, oh, teachers will teach him that, or Sunday school is going to teach him that. Teaching a child starts at home, and just teaching kindness at home, treating everyone with respect, um, especially because I know we are quick to judge based on looks, but there's more to a person than what you see. And that pretty much sums up my uh, my self-image story. I think we're all still a work in progress. I'm still learning every day. Now that I'm a mom, I feel like there's other things that come up. But I look back at my diaries because I've had a diary since I was in third grade, and I could see the difference in when I would struggle with my self-image. But now I look at my diary or my journal, whatever you want to call it, and I love me. And it makes me feel so good knowing that I'm going through this process and I'm learning, and I'm having that self love. I'm having a good self image. I'm having a high self esteem, and I'm having confidence. But it doesn't come from me. It doesn't come from the people complimenting me. It comes from God. Like God just fills me up with so much love, and his love can't compare to anyone else's. And when I see how much God loved me, that he sent his only son to die for me, like it just makes me want to live for him in everything that I do. So that is my little piece of my testimony there. Next week we have a guest speaker going along the lines of self-image, and I normally don't tell you guys who it is, so that you guys can tune in for next time. But I will say this: we are going to be talking to a gentleman in regards to self-image, which I think is really cool, because a lot of the times, like we mentioned before, we think that only girls struggle with self-image. So I'm excited to see his testimony and just his journey with self-image. So tune in next week so that you guys can go ahead and hear that out. Alrighty, guys. God bless you guys, and thank you again for tuning in. Have a good one.